good evening. This is your man's, the man about town, Petty Murphy, reporting to you live from the back of the classroom with Alcata News Network. What is that? Wait a minute. Stay tuned. Breaking news.
What do you think Martin Luther King Jr. would say about a nation that purchased food for starving kids and then locked it in a warehouse until it expired and incinerated it rather than giving it out so that 27,000 starving kids could survive meagerly? Nearly 500 tons of high-energy biscuits stored at a USAID warehouse in Dubai are due to expire in July, according to a former USAID official. The biscuits could feed at least 27,000 acutely malnourished children for a month. The biscuits are now likely to be destroyed or turned into animal feed. That article was from 2 months ago. Yesterday, The Atlantic reported that the expiration date on those 500 tons of nutritious food for starving kids was now upon us, and the U.S. had decided to incinerate that food rather than allow starving children to have it. Mr. Regas, you're the Deputy Secretary for Management and Resources. These are resources that were purchased with U.S. taxpayer dollars. They're specifically designed to save the lives of starving children. Why is it a good use of resources to not distribute that food to kids and instead burn it?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I'd have to look into that particular issue and see how those foodstuffs got there.
Can I just interrupt for a second? I asked this question at a hearing yesterday so you would be prepared to know that I would ask it today. And we called your office to tell you that I would ask it today. So the notion that you need to look into it strikes me as a little bit odd. I view it as an intentional thing, because if we suddenly woke up in July, oh gosh, the expiration date is today. You know, that would be one thing. But in March, there was a request by the World Food Program and others. Look, if you're not going to distribute it, maybe you've decided, the U.S., that starving kids are no longer your thing. But you have this asset. If you're not going to distribute it, we'll distribute it. So it's not a mistake if you've been on notice of it for 2 months and you've made the decision to keep the warehouse locked. Hey, you went to Boston University. Who is the most famous BU alum?
The most famous BU alum?
Next to you.
I don't know. I don't want to offend anyone that's graduated from BU. But
I'll tell you who it is.
Okay.
Martin Luther King Jr. What do you think Martin Luther King Jr. would say about a nation that purchased food for starving kids and then locked it in a warehouse until it expired and incinerated it rather than giving it out so that 27,000 starving kids could survive meagerly for 1 more month?
Well, we're still the biggest giver of aid anywhere in the world by far. So I think, look,
I'll just conclude. I want to hand it back to you, Mr. Chair. A lot of complicated issues. You know, sometimes the tiniest detail really exposes the soul.
Israel, 3 children for every woman of childbearing age. They have the child, the mother gets a fucking paycheck.
Oh, it's so much worse than people realize. I'm convinced if Americans knew what Israelis have, they would lash out rationally. Before we get all the way into it, they are the largest recipient of U.S. aid at around $320 billion, with at least another $21.7 billion in the last 2 years. Let's just do a quick comparison between what Israelis get and what Americans get. They get 15 weeks paid maternity leave. We get 0. They also get bed rest benefits. So let's say you're pregnant, you need to be on bed rest, you'll get paid for that. In the United States, no, you won't. And they also have universal health care in Israel. We do not have that in the United States. Plus, once you have a baby, they just give you money. You get a birth grant just for having a baby. As an American, can you even imagine just being handed $600 for having a baby? Instead of, you know, paying ridiculous amounts of money. And these are numbers from 2017, so it's significantly more expensive now. But if you're Israeli, everything about your hospitalization is paid for. And if you're lucky enough to have twins, they're just giving you $3,000. And then you also get paid every month just for having a kid. If you have 1 kid, you get $618 a year, but the average Israeli family has 3 kids. They're getting $2,100 a year. I don't know, my fellow Americans, what could you do with an extra $2,100? And those are just the benefits for being pregnant and having kids. You're gonna freak out when you see how much money they get from their government. There's a reason so many Israelis have New Jersey and New York accents. It is good money to be a colonizer. You want your brand new colonizer absorption basket? They're gonna give you your first cash payment at the goddamn airport. How much are you gonna get for a family of 3 to help you settle in? Just $21,000. And if you're struggling to find work while living in someone else's home, no worries. A family of 3 can get $5,000 paid out over 6 months. Don't forget, they get their college for free. We do not. I haven't even gotten to how much their rent is subsidized. You're going to be so upset. But I wanted to remind you that as Americans, we are subsidizing them to the tune of about $11 billion a year. I don't know, it kind of seems like they can afford their own goddamn bombs. We don't have any of those benefits, and our leaders keep saying we can't afford those benefits, but somehow we keep having money to give it to them.
Watch Anna Kasparian school Ben Shapiro on how Zionism crushed the American economy.
Hold on, when you're talking about the government paying, you're talking about Social Security,
Yes.
which is people's money?
Well, it is.
I just totally reject what you just said about how we're going bankrupt due to Social Security. Really, you don't think like the trillions of dollars we've spent on wars in the Middle East might have something to do with that?
It's not even
our
remotely a
national
percentage
debt.
of what we spend on Social
Our national
Security.
debt shot up significantly after we started invading countries in the Middle East. We're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on Israel. Do you think that Social Security is more of an issue compared to how much money we just shell out for conflicts abroad?
In this clip, you've got 2 Zionists blaming hardworking Americans for the nation's debt, and their solution is to raise the retirement age to 70. On the other side, journalist Anna Kasparian setting the record straight. Our debt didn't explode because of workers or Social Security. It exploded because of Israel. And she was right on the money, because this is what Zionists like Shapiro and Jennings don't want you to know. Social Security isn't a government handout, it's money you've earned. With every paycheck, a portion of your wages is set aside to secure your benefits later in life. Since 2010, however, payroll taxes haven't always covered the full amount of benefits. For example, in 2010, Social Security needed $702 billion to pay benefits, but collected only $677 billion. So the government borrowed $25 billion to make up the difference. Over time, those gaps have added up to about $950 billion in borrowing, an issue that must be addressed to keep the program sustainable. However, what Zionists like Ben Shapiro and Scott Jennings don't want you to do is compare that $950 billion that the government borrowed to close the gap of Social Security to how much it borrowed to give or to fight on behalf of Israel. And we're not just talking about the $310 billion in direct military aid to Israel, but all the wars Israel pushed the U.S. to fight to get rid of its enemies in the Middle East.
Iraq, Iran, and Libya are racing to develop nuclear weapons. Obviously, we'd like to see a regime change, at least I would, in Iran, just as I would like to see in Iraq. The first victory in Afghanistan makes the second victory in Iraq that much easier. The second victory in Iraq will make the third victory that much easier too.
Brown University's Costs of War project estimates that America's wars on Israel's behalf have cost over $8 trillion. Yet Zionists never mention this massive drain because it served Israel's interests. On one hand, they demand raising the retirement age of Americans to 70. On the other, they push America toward its most expensive war yet, with Iran on behalf of Israel. Do you think that American economy can survive Zionism?
They're canceling DEI across America in businesses and schools except for one group of people. And guess which group of people that is?
8:44, everybody. And a groundbreaking announcement by the U.S. Commerce Department this week will result in a historic expansion for Jewish businesses, not only in New York, but across the country.
Yeah, Jewish businesses will now be classified as minority business enterprises, making them eligible for billions of dollars in grants, contract, and loans.
So now they're going to be getting access to billions of dollars of taxpayers' money for free. DEI is canceled for others, but enhanced for them, huh? Listen to the explanation.
Duvi Honig is the founder and CEO of the Orthodox Jewish Chamber of Commerce.
Think about it. The Hispanic community is 19% of the U.S. population. Yeah. The African American is 15% of the U.S. population. The Jewish population is 2%.
And did you catch that subtlety? 19% Hispanic, 15% black, and 2% Jewish. They're counting themselves and listing themselves as a racial minority, not a religious one. Everybody except for themselves counts them as white. So are they a religious group or racial group? Really, it's whatever benefits them in the moment, isn't it? And the icing on the cake?
Jews are always the underdog. And it doesn't make sense. Like 2% of we're the biggest, smallest minority in America,
Yeah.
you know, and we had no voice. We had no eligibility to access our taxpayers' dollars as the biggest minority and the biggest suppressed people.
They have no voice? Who owns the media? And they're the biggest oppressed group in America? I would love to see all the fact checkers fact check this, but unfortunately they own all the fact checkers too. We're not waking people up, they're waking people up with their own arrogance, and they're being too blatant about their control of things.
So, you already know what it is, and you know who it is. It's your man's Petty Murphy. My question is this. They want to move the retirement age. They want to blame things on Social Security, right? But nobody's actually asking, one, where's the money going? And two, why is the money continuously allowed to go to these places that it's going instead of the American people? Like, I need to know why we as a people, as a collective, right, as the American people, are not questioning and demanding to know why our government is now forcing us to pay for the retirement of the Israeli Defense Forces. Can someone explain to me, please, in simple English, why American citizens are now responsible for paying for the retirement for the Israeli Defense Forces? Why are they suggesting that we raise the age of retirement? Why were we just forced to pay for a forced immigration crisis that we continue to pay for? Because, you know, Governor Hochul saw fit that the New York City residents were responsible to covering the Democrats' new Kamala kids visitors in New York City. So even though a lot of those individuals went up to New York State, the citizens of New York City are on the hook for the bill. I want to say thank you to Governor Hochul and Senior Adams. We appreciate that extra deduction. But my real question is when are we as a people, when are we as a collective, as a society, when are we as a nation of people going to come together and start, one, asking the right questions, and then two, demanding the proper action? Because there's a lot of unconstitutional shit going on. And for some reason, a lot of us, as I've been told, simply don't care. But we want to complain about all the shit that they won't let us do while they're handicapping us and giving all our fucking money away. I keep telling people, you mad at the wrong shit and upset for the wrong reasons, but you don't care to actually find out what's going on and what's actually causing the problems in your life, because it's better just to find something that's easy and quick to blame and then just blame all your problems on that instead of getting up, getting active, and fucking doing something. And that's the most disturbing part of this shit, is that a lot of the men in this society now are so fucking soft, they would rather roll over, grab ankle, and just accept abuse rather than make motherfuckers be accountable and actually uphold the laws of the land. And I'm talking from personal experience. Trust me when I tell you, because I've been in the fight for what, the last 3 years now against two conglomerates, as everybody knows. And most of the people around me told me, you're wrong. You're making them look bad. Not that, oh, they broke the law and they continue to break the law recklessly and don't care. It was, I'm making them look bad by exposing it. But to get back to my point, until we all as a collective come together and decide to take a stance on what's actually right and just, they're going to continue to figuratively bend us over, make us grab ankle, and continue doing this, while they continue taking this and leaving us with the tab. We have literally all become new age slaves in this country through taxation, lack of representation, and now it looks like because some of us are starting to ask questions, they've come up with a policy of replacement. I mean, why do you think old Papa Sleepy Joe and Mama Kamala left the southern border open for 4 years and just imported 25+ million asylum seekers? You know, the ones that built this country. Yeah. But I'm gonna get out of here. Remember, realize, and transparency forces accountability. Y'all keep your eyes to the stars and keep that head on a swivel. And I promise you, if you continue to not give a fuck and not care, within 5 years, every major city in this country is gonna look like Minneapolis, Minnesota, Dearborn, Michigan, what's happening in Texas right now. Look what's happening in Australia, where they are now constructing new laws around the Ramadan time so that they can feel comfortable going swimming. I've never heard of importing a population that then takes over the country and tells its citizens how to live as guests in their house. But this is what we voted for and we're now paying for, figuratively, literally, and economically. Y'all keep your eyes to the stars and keep that head on a swivel.